Light it up.
Punch it.
Welcome to Unmistakably Star Wars, your source for a high-quality, informative, and entertaining look into the Star Wars galaxy. So strap yourself in, because here's where the fun begins.
Well, here it is we're recording this in the USW World Headquarters in the Bay Area in California. And, Carl, we've touched several times on frustration and outrage. And outraged. And so I just want to come forward as the day after the most holy day for Christians, for those that celebrate Judaism. Certainly there was Passover. For those that are atheists and pagans, every day is a holiday for you, so you'll enjoy this as well. But I wanted to come forward and confess right from the get-go that I did something I never thought I would do today. I was in the Star Destroyer of a shopping complex, also known as Costco, and as I was going through the aisles, and there at the end cap was the display for The Last Jedi Blu-ray and digital, and I put it in the cart. It was a reflex, obviously, see it, get it. And as I wound my way through the dry goods and eventually to the line, I got to the checkout, literally put it on the belt, and I told the young man working the cash register, go ahead and just hold off. We're not going to get that today.
What?
I know.
Why?
I know. Well, and so as I was just having like my life flashing before me, and as I was thinking that I will let so many people down, here's I think where I arrived, right? Is that I'm going to wait till after 9 and I'm going to get the 1 through 9 collection. I think that's the way to go. So I'm holding hope that Auntie Katie and Lucasfilm will do me right if I'm not going to buy episode 8 right now. I don't know. I just had to get that off my chest.
Well,
You feel good. Do you feel better?
Hours and hours of throne room viewing. I don't know what you're thinking, but
yeah.
okay.
Yes, actually that would be a good, I guess, cleansing of my soul, is just to watch that. And in particular, I have to admit, Amy, is that I love the Beastie Boys Sabotage song put to the throne room epic.
That's a different franchise. That's a
Or
different
Zeppelin.
franchise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Were you? How many copies of episode 4 do you own?
Well, I've got the original DVD.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the 2 copies of VHS, and then I have one very special copy that was recorded from the television when it was actually shown on TV for the first time. And I don't know why I remember this part, but of all the parts I remember, they would interview celebrities at like the commercial breaks about what Star Wars meant for film and for culture. And I remember there's one little excerpt from it. I'm dating myself, I realize this, but Joan Rivers saying how much Star Wars meant to her. And wow is right.
Well, I mean, I think you dated yourself when you said you recorded it off the TV. So that's
And VHS.
Yeah.
yes.
I
You
mean,
did
I saw
DVR it. Yeah.
True. Yeah. No DVR
All right.
there. At least we
So,
didn't have the
but-
Betamax though.
But The Last Jedi is only worth 1. Okay, I got it. I see your
know.
hierarchy.
Well, see, I'm just trying to consolidate my consumer dollars. I want to get
There
the
you go.
most bang for my buck. I know that they're going to package everything, and who knows? I mean, with Lucasfilm purchasing 21st Century Fox, who knows? Maybe we get the original cut. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Wait. I have a question though.
Oh gosh. All right.
Were you this torn? Were you being torn apart?
Oh, are they being torn apart?
With The Force Awakens, or did you just scoop that right up?
You know, Force Awakens and Rogue One both pre-ordered them. So they arrived the day that they were released. Yeah, I don't know what it is. You're right. I need to go back tomorrow. I hope if you're listening to this, you will forgive me and just know by the time we record next week, I will have the copy of The Last Jedi in my household. Because I can't go on like this.
No, we
Yeah.
can't let you go on like
I
this.
appreciate
I'm
you
gonna
looking out
pull.
for me.
I'm gonna pull a quote from you. What show am I on right now? I can't believe
Oh!
you don't have a copy of that.
Wow. All right. Throwing it back in my face. I like that. Well,
I mean,
my
I
little
hate
tauntauns.
shopping.
Oh, go ahead.
And I hate shopping like with a passion. And I even made a special trip to Target the day it came
Wow.
out to get the Blu-ray.
All right. I see where this is
So-
going. I'm outnumbered. I get it. All right. I'm going back. I will brave the lines at Costco and get my copy of the Blu-ray and digital Last Jedi. Doggone it. Look at you making me spend $23.99.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, my little tauntauns, welcome to this 127th version of Unmistakably Star Wars. We are glad that you are with us on tonight's journey. I am Devin Clever, your curator of content, and joining me tonight on the pod. And if you're watching this on the YouTube, you can see their pictures from left to right. So joining me from Des Moines, Iowa, the one and only Amy Wishman. Welcome, Amy.
Greetings.
And also somewhere in Central America, not to be, of course, confused with Central America. I said Central America, right? Oh, my goodness.
Yes, you did.
My goodness.
With itself.
And not to be confused with anywhere else, but from the southern part of the United States, the one and only Mr. Carl Hassler.
Hey, thank you. Costco is not a Star Destroyer. It's more like a dreadnought, too. It's a fleet killer.
It is a wallet killer, that's for sure.
Yes,
that is no doubt about that. And from the East Coast, the one and only, the always affable, always engaging and entertaining, there's an A and two E's. Vanek and I buy a O, the one and only Eve.
Hello there.
Very nice, very nice. Well, hey, we've got all kinds of things on the show for you tonight, starting with, speaking of consumer purchases, we went to Toys R Us in our neck of the woods the other day, and gosh, I fully, once again, it's Star Wars confession time, I fully confess that I tend to go for the better deal. So we don't have Walmart in this town, but Amazon delivers here. So I tend to buy most of my stuff off Amazon. But I took my daughter to Toys R Us since, as many of you know, it's going out of business nationwide. And I actually got a little, I guess, a twinge of guilt in me because as I saw her going through these aisles that are stacked with toys and toys and toys, it made me kind of sad that she's not going to have that experience after about the next 4 weeks or so. So we're actually going to talk about retail, Toys R Us, and in particular Star Wars toys that actually performed perhaps worse than they have at any other time in the past, what that means going forward. We're also going to take a look at the possibility, is Star Wars, dare I say it, listeners, becoming oversaturated? And the one and only Mark Hamill is the one that brought that to the news front this week. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then going forward with episode 9, there were tremors on the interwebs this week with the talk of, yes, you know that's right, the one and only Meryl Streep coming to episode 9 to play General Leia. Is that even a possibility? Do we want that? I don't know, but we're going to talk about it. And that is going to springboard us right into tonight's Closer Look segment, where we're going to take a look at what Lucasfilm should do in handling the Leia situation. So stick around, my little tauntauns. The news is next.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's so interesting.
Wait, there's something very weak coming through.
All right, let's talk about this, gang. We have got Toys R Us around since it seems like the beginning of time. So many of us, both as kids and parents, have spent many dollars there. And all of a sudden, we're seeing not only brick and mortar stores start to close down, especially ones that featured just toy lines, not a massive buffet of items such as a Walmart or Target would. But then we're also seeing less Star Wars toys sales overall, not just in regards to Toys R Us, but just overall, including Amazon, Walmart, and all other retailers that may carry this stuff. So, Carl, let me come your way first. What in the world is going on with America's children today?
They are a bunch of just biscuits that sit around inside all day.
Yes.
I mean, they're soft. I
Yes.
mean, we could, you could just, push them in like the Pillsbury Doughboy and they'll giggle. No, I think it's they have different stuff. I mean, my son's got a little tablet, and that's all he ever really wants to do is just go and he'll play the dumbest, I mean, the stupidest games, but he likes to do it. And he just wants to get he'll go and download a new game every once in a while, but that's all he wants to do. And the friends can kind of interconnect with him. If they're in the same place, they can sort of play the game together that way. It's all going digital a lot of times, it seems. I mean, he'll buy Legos like with Christmas money and stuff, and he'll play with Legos, but once he puts it together once, he rarely goes back to it. So I think that it's a lot of just digital stuff. I do kind of wonder, though, if maybe the parents wouldn't let the kids play with the Star Wars toys when they bought them. Like, no, you got to keep that in the box and save it for later. So
right.
And so maybe go as a kid, you're like, I want to play with it now. So if I can't play with it, I'm going to go to something else. I kind of wonder how much that might be involved, but I just think it's just a different generation, and they have something else that they really like doing as opposed to the toys that we grew up with.
Well, I'll tell you, every generation always says about the up-and-coming generation, oh my gosh, these knuckleheads, what are they thinking? You should have known when I was a kid what we had to do, all this stuff. And we might actually be at that point right now where this is becoming reality. Eve, you are a parent. You're also a collector of sorts when it comes to some of the Star Wars items out there. Let me ask you, from your perspective as a parent, are you noticing this trend within your own household?
Yes, 100%.
And you're allowing it.
I don't want to be that parent that forces my loves down my kid's throat where it's like, because I love this, you have to love this. That seems a little maniacal. Not that I'm saying I haven't done that, but a part of me feels like it's also a weird transition age for her right now because she just turned 9 and a lot of her friends aren't doing like the toy thing right now. So I don't know if she's also she's very intelligent. So she loves doing like STEM activities and will just build things. Or, I'm very not great at all with math. So the other day she handed me like a booklet on how to do, just division problems. And I was like, thank you, sweetie. You didn't have to do this. You could have been playing or something. She's like, no, I want to teach you. And I was like, okay, thank you. So that made me very proud. But at the same time, I wish she would just have that kind of like sit down on the carpet, have fun with your toys moment.
Yeah.
Instead of, being this kind of super smart kid or hanging on the Minecraft with her cousin, for 2 or 3 hours, which drives me nuts. But I don't know if it's a transition period or if that's just kind of how she's going to go with things. But I definitely do miss the sit down playtime.
And I would say that Lego could qualify as a STEM because you can get into robotics and stuff, but we'll come back to that in a second. Amy, what about you and your household? Are you noticing this with your kiddos?
I'm not. I was more like I was the kid that never played. It was more fun to like set up the play than to actually execute the play. And I read a lot, and so like I didn't play a lot. And so I think my kids play a lot more than I did. I don't know if they play more or less than average. My youngest loves like the Forces of Destiny figures, and they're fun because you can like change their outfits and do their hair. And so I think my kids like toys like that more than just maybe straight up traditional action figures, because even with like the action figures and the Legos, like they tend to kind of go off script and crazy things happen, and they seem to have more fun that way.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you.
and we
go ahead.
As I say, we read a lot too, and so like my oldest is really into books, and so she would almost rather, like, she loves Star Wars books, and we get a lot of them from the library and have a lot, but I think like she'd almost enjoy looking at a book about Star Wars Legos than playing with Star Wars Legos, like, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
I listen, what is it that's convicted me tonight? Because here I go with confession time again. This is under 10 minutes and we're in 3 confessions. I fully confess once again, listeners, that I am the antithesis of what Eve described. I am not above saying, hey, yes, I understand that you'd like that American Girl welly wisher, but I'll buy you 2 of these Star Wars dolls over here. Which do you want, 2 Star Wars or 1 welly wishers? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes she walks home and sometimes she gets a ride. But nonetheless, let me ask this, though. And Amy, let me stick with you on this. What do you think that kids who are foregoing this, delving into this creative play with Star Wars toys, collectibles, whatever you want to label them as tonight, what do you think that they might actually be foregoing as part of their childhood if they're not engaged in that? Are they, as Star Wars fans, going to lose something as far as their fandom goes by not having that type of engagement that literally 40 years worth of kids had before this time?
Well, since I'm going to say no, just because that wasn't a huge part of my personal fandom.
Okay.
So like, I don't feel like if they're missing out on something, I missed out on it too. And so I don't think that it's that big of a deal or hand wringy, because like there's so many other amazing things that people can do in fandom now, like with technology and the internet. And so, people are making videos and they're podcasting and they're doing, writing fics and all this stuff that's not just toys. I mean, like my 7 and 9-year-olds are writing fan fiction. So it's like, they may not be playing with a lot of action figures, but they're doing stuff like that. So I think maybe technology is kind of changing how people interact with fandom, and toys are just one facet of it.
You bring up a great point with that. It actually brings several great points, but one of the things that stuck out to me was, the actual fiction part of things, not just writing fanfic, but we recall back, oh gosh, I'm going to totally blow it on the date, but I'm probably going to say late last summer, we did a Star Wars on Tap with Verle and Inga from, oh gosh, and now I'm drawing a blank, but somewhere over there in Europe. And her daughter was actually making Star Wars videos with like action figures and everything else. And it was just stop motion stuff that was incredible. So I do agree. There's certainly other ways to be creative and still really be engaged with the Star Wars galaxy. Carl, you had mentioned that your son is into some of the tablet games and things like that. Where do you think that Star Wars fandom and digital gamehood will cross over beyond what we already have with the Heroes on the iPad, or the Galaxy of Heroes on the iPad? We've got, of course, console games, all those things. What is potentially next?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know if they, something that might be virtual reality type stuff, that you can kind of do that now. And that is just going to, I think, get better and better as technology increases. So I would say probably that direction, because, those things are popping up. You can go to Disney World and places and do things like that, and they kind of travel with some of those exhibits. So I would say that's probably where it would probably go next.
That's a good call. Eve, when it comes to your childhood, Star Wars toys, Star Wars collectibles, was there a favorite that you had, and or was there a white whale that you never got that you always wanted?
I have to fully confess that I don't actually think I ever had Star Wars toys.
What in the world?
Yeah.
What podcast am I on right now?
What podcast am I on? Yeah, I don't. The only toys, honestly, that I remember from my childhood are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and a few Barbies, but I ended up just like, I wasn't a super girly girl, so I never really, they just got tossed eventually. And I mean, I was just a tomboy, so I would watch my movies and then go outside and reenact everything with my friends and the neighborhood kids. So I honestly, maybe I had a Luke, but outside of that, I can't remember anything.
My goodness, your data banks have been wiped clean. Amy, what about you? You mentioned before that you didn't have a lot of the Star Wars collectibles toys growing up. Was there anything that you wish that you did have, though, that got away?
Yeah, we did not have a lot of money growing up, and so I don't remember toys. I remember my mom taking a brown paper grocery sack and drawing a Darth Vader mask on it for my little brother.
Wow.
Because that's the kind of stuff that we had to play with.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I don't remember toys, and I don't have like honestly, and this is embarrassing, but I'll just say it. Like, the thing that I wish that they had now was a Kylo Ren doll with fixable hair. Like, I want to be able to touch his hair and play with his hair, and it doesn't exist. And they should make Barbies for all the Skywalker family where I can just fix their hair. That's my white whale. That's what I would blow my wad on.
All right. Wow. Well, that's amazing. That is amazing. Wow. Say it again backwards. Wow. Carl, beyond you fixing hair at the Kylo Ren boutique and beauty shop, what else did you not get as a kid that you wanted toy wise?
We had like one TIE fighter and 6 figures between us, but we played the paint off of them. But so probably the Millennium Falcon I would have liked. I grew up. I mean, when I was in high school. I went to somebody's house, and he had a closet just full of Star Wars toys, and I was like, "Can we just? We're going somewhere, but can we just stop right now and just play with all these things?" So, he had all the different sets, the Death Star, the Bespin little pods that fly. He had everything. So, it was still kind of exciting, and there is something about fan fiction stuff. is a great way to be creative. But there's something about holding those
Yeah.
things, looking at all the details and doing that stuff. So I think the kids are missing out a little bit on some of that. But at the same time, I think what they're doing now is preparing them for the future that they're going to have as far as technology goes too. So I think the play that they have is going to be beneficial to the world they end up in because technology just keeps, exponentially increasing every year.
Right.
But I do think there's something about holding the different items that I really enjoyed.
Yeah. I literally remember faking an illness at school after Christmas break so I could go home and play with my Millennium Falcon.
Yes.
Yeah. I just
that's
sat
amazing.
waiting for my parents to pick me up. And then on the ride home, my mother literally turns to me and says this. Don't think you're going to go home and play with that new Star Wars.
No, that's such a mom thing.
Busted. Cold busted. So
Eve, are you keeping up with the confession count? Are we up to, was that 4 you said?
Yeah.
Four,
Is that 4? All right. 1, 2, 3. I'm putting tally marks now on my show notes.
Yeah, just ring a bell.
Yes, indeed. Let me ask this, though, in regards to this, the experience, we can go a little bit broader than just Star Wars, but the experience of going into that toy store. And, when I went into the local Toys R Us here the end of last week, and there are still Force Awakens fins and Zuvios on the pegs.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to actually buy a Zuvio that will be the hot item 30 years from now. But
Probably.
Is that experience in and of itself, just pushing Star Wars aside, is that experience in and of itself something that you think that kids today and beyond are actually going to miss out on, whether they're getting Star Wars toys or board games or STEM toys or whatever else it is, just being able to walk into the brick and mortar and feeling like you've got a little slice of heaven where you're at that point. And Eve, let me begin with you. Do you think that is something that we can't go back? Once we're gone, it's gone.
Yes, I actually said that because we did a Toys R Us run, I think last week, just to see if there were any really hot deals, and there's just not, surprisingly. But I remember being a kid and walking through those aisles, and they just seemed so monumental, being just a tiny little kid, and there were stars in my eyes, and I feel like every kid should experience that at least once in their life, and I don't know if that's going to be the same walking through,
It's very hard to find
6 to 10 aisles in Target or Walmart, or it's just different when it's one whole store. So that's a little sad.
I'm with you. Amy, weigh in on that. What are your thoughts on that? Are tomorrow's kids or today's kids going into tomorrow, are they going to miss something? And look, I realize this is first world problems, but are they going to miss something vital from their childhood by not being able to walk down those aisles?
I'm going to say no.
Oh my gosh. What plot am I on?
Outrage! I think I've stated how much I hate shopping. Yeah. And so I don't like going to the store. Even as a kid, I found the toy store overwhelming and overstimulating. And so I don't think it's that big of a deal. And like the thought of taking my youngest, who is a shopaholic, to a store like that makes me have palpitations. It would just be too much for me. So I'm going to say no.
I get that. There's certainly the parent side of things where not only keeping an eye on your child, but keeping an eye on the price tag that your child is ringing up can certainly be dramatic. Carl, let's wrap this part up with you. Do you think today's and tomorrow's kids are going to miss out on stuff?
I think a little bit. I mean,
the usual happens.
I went to a big toy store
again,
like Toys R Us.
and again,
it was kind of
and again.
inspiring, and it was fun to go through and actually see in bigger detail. But at the same time, after one or two trips there, and not having a lot of money to spend, it kind of lost its magic. So maybe a little, but nothing that they can't live without.
All right, I'm with you on that. I think that there is something, and this is just based on my experience as a kid and then my experience as a dad last week, and just going, man, like, if not for being a tight-fisted German, I probably would have said I would have spent more money there in order to keep the place in business. But yeah, at the end of the day, tight-fisted Germanist wins out every time as I sail my German flag. I'll tell you what, let's transition to our next story. Mark Hamill was in the news, as he is, it seems like, every swinging day these days, for one quote or another, most of them out of context. But one of the things that he did say was, hey, Disney, hey, Lucasfilm, slow it down, pull back the reins. Let's not get in any rush to churn out a movie every swinging year. You're going to oversaturate the market. People are going to be fed up with Star Wars. Amy, what are your thoughts on this? Does Mark Hamill have it right?
Oh, I don't know. Like, I get the point that he's saying. I don't know why he's suddenly the expert on this.
Yes.
But I do feel like part of what makes Star Wars special is that it, like, there was time between the movies, but I also really loved getting a Star Wars movie every year. So I kind of remember thinking like, oh, there's no way after The Last Jedi that I'm going to be ready for Solo, but I'm super hyped for Solo and I'm super excited for it. And I'm excited we get to see it next month. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if more than one a year would feel like too much, but maybe we're just getting to a point where there's just going to be enough content coming out that we're going to have to accept the fact that most people don't consume all of it or as much of it as like diehards do. And the diehards may have to accept the fact that we're not going to be able to take everything in. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting point that I'm going to come back to you, Amy, on this one. Do you think that when it comes to the churning out of material, so it's not just film, but films, comics, novels, junior novels, all this stuff, anything that involves a story that adds to quote unquote canon, do you think that oversaturation or fan fatigue is more a matter of if you're trying to read everything, see everything, interact with everything, that is more likely than just someone who says, you know what, I'm about the films, I'm okay with that, I'm not any less of a fan, therefore one movie a year is perfectly great pacing?
Yeah, I would say I would agree with what you said. Like, if you're trying to justify or quantify your fan status by how much you consume of what's put out, then that's where you get to where people feel burnt out, or they feel like they're drinking from a fire hydrant, or they start to get angry when they don't like it's like, I don't like young adult novels, and I read this young adult novel that's Star Wars and I didn't like it. And it's like, well, why did you read it? You know, if you hate young adult. So I think we have to remember it's supposed to be fun. And when it starts to feel like work, maybe we need to adjust our expectations. And I mean, God, how many Marvel movies come out a year? Is that oversaturated for people? I feel like there's one every other month. So maybe it's just the perspective of how much you're taking in and kind of your attitude about it.
So I want to actually go to Carl next, because one of the things, I'm not a comic book guy when it comes to the Marvel and superheroes and all that stuff. I'll enjoy a film, but I don't know the backstory of most of the characters, and I don't go into it going, oh my gosh, this is going to impact canon this way. But Carl, you had said earlier that you're on the record as saying that you enjoy the superheroes, you enjoy Marvel, things like that. For you, from a Marvel standpoint, are they churning out too much stuff? Because I see it as a non-Marvel fan and go, my God, another Marvel film this year.
Right. I don't think they're overdoing it. And I will almost say, as far as the word oversaturation, there's not oversaturation. What there is sometimes you put too much out there and the quality might suffer because you're not worried about the quality. So I think, me personally, there's not been a Marvel movie that I've been disappointed in. Wow. There's been characters that they put movies out. I'm not a big Doctor Strange fan. I wasn't even a big Thor fan. And honestly, the characters that Marvel has used, because they had sold off X-Men and Spider-Man, which were the biggest when I was younger, they were using their B, C, D tier characters. Guardians of the Galaxy, nobody knew who the heck that was, So, but they've done a good job, so that I go in going, I don't even know if I want to see this character in a movie, and the movie has been, to me at least, entertaining, satisfying, and glad to see. And then, but I think the brilliant thing that they have done is they've interwoven these characters together to a point where the movies do stand alone, but they do sort of feed off each other at the same time. And I would love to see Star Wars do that. So, but at the same time, I don't want the quality. If you're just churning out just to meet a quota, and then the quality goes down. No, I don't want to see that. So, we're having trouble getting directors to stick on a film long enough. So maybe we don't have enough directors to churn out that many Star Wars movies. Right. But if the quality is high and they do a good job, then I'd love to see 2 or 3 Star Wars movies a year.
At what point, Carl, would you consider your fandom getting fatigued or it being too much? Let's say, regardless of quality, let's say quality stays consistent to whatever level. Right. At what point do you think your Star Wars fandom would have to go, whoa, this is getting a little crazy for me?
Probably if it got over 3 a year. Wow. And I don't think they would get there as it is. But I think that, I go to the movies, and honestly, I've got to a point where it's hard for me, especially when we're taking the family. Nobody can agree on anything, but the Marvel movies and the Star Wars movies are things that we can all go and kind of enjoy. So, we don't go, and that's about as often as we go. All the different types of movies out there. Those real serious Oscar contenders, that my kids aren't going to watch those, and to me, those are just as good at home, because part of what makes Star Wars and Marvel movies you want to see at the theater is just how great they look on the screen and the sound and everything. So, and I want the story to be good too, but when the story is all there is, I could see those movies at home and be just as satisfied with it.
Okay, well said. Eve, let me swing it over to you. What are your thoughts on this? And I guess what would it take for your fandom to start to feel fatigued?
My thoughts on the Mark Hamill comments, or just saturation in general, or both?
Yeah, let's combine those. Weave those together in a tapestry of your liking.
Yes, I think he's definitely focused, like the focus of a lot of clickbaity articles these days, and
which I believe is no relation to Ned Beatty, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, you never know. And it's on purpose, because he's like the hot new thing. He's on all the talk shows, the hot new, like, everything that's old becomes new and hot again kind of thing. Right. And that's wonderful. I love that he's enjoying the spotlight and having a very well-deserved good time. But at the same time, he does the back and forth thing in this article where he talks about his fear of oversaturation, but then he talks about how there shouldn't be a limit on storytelling, and that it would be great to have like movies like Rogue One and individual spin-offs and not so much saga films. So it's kind of like it's the same thing ultimately, and he's contradicting himself. I don't know if that was his intention, but I am kind of in line with Carl. I could do 2, max 3 movies per year, and I'm a consume at my own pace kind of person. So if I was the type that was looking at every Star Wars book that's released, and I had a stack of 25 novels just like collecting dust, I would feel horrible inside. If I was that, I have to
You're
to consume
betraying your
everything.
fandom.
Yes. Luckily, I'm totally that person, and I definitely have that guilt. But for me, it's the movies. That's where it all began for me, and that's where it ultimately will see me through the rest of my life. So as long as they keep the quality consistent and knock me out of my seat once or twice a year, I'm as happy as a clam.
I gotta say, I'm impressed by y'all's threshold for number of films. I'm perfectly content. In fact, I even question the wisdom of 1 per year. I think that 1 per year is fine, but it even makes me nervous. And I guess it's, look, I am no distance runner, but I know a thing or two about running distance. 1, that I hate it. 2, that when it comes to that, it's about pacing. And I'm curious if Star Wars longevity would have greater length if things were paced out a little bit different. Right now, to me as a fan, it feels very much like we are just sprinting the entire race. And to me, that's fatiguing. And I don't even read every comic or every novel or every... let me start that over. And I don't even read every little comic or novel or young adult novel or whatever else it is. And even then, I still feel like, my goodness, there's a lot here. And it makes me sad to think that Star Wars could fade into the corner and darkness of collective pop culture simply because they didn't use wisdom and they just tried to get so much of it out the door that maybe Carl's, like you said, it dropped in quality, or it was just so much that, like anything that's part of pop culture, eventually it just kind of, we just,
We could keep the quality up, because there's a lot of unemployed female directors and writers out there who could turn out 10 a year
Carl.
probably. So we could do it.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt that we can get the quality out there. I still wonder though if it would be too much. I don't know. I don't tend to agree with Mark Hamill's dialogue here, but it is a thought that I've had when it comes to, I would hate for other generations to not see the specialness and the uniqueness of it just because there was so much of it that it just became, I personally tend to go like, oh, if something's popular, I'm not going to go for it. I'm going to go opposite.
Well, I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is just a case of striking consistently while the iron is just red hot? Because they have a fear of it kind of, if they did 2 to 3 years between each project, it would be less interest on the public's part?
I think if all Lucasfilm / Disney was going to do is focus on movies, I think you get away with a film every other year, every 3 years. I think that's probably okay. I think when you sink $4 billion plus into just getting the naming rights for stuff, and then you're starting to build theme parks and everything else, no, I think you have to milk this cow as often as you possibly can. There's just no other way about it, right? You want to make money on it. Disney's not in this to break even.
No,
so yeah. Well,
it'll be interesting to see like the break between Solo and Episode 9. That'll be a longer break. That'll be like the longest break we've had.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting to see. And I think too, every generation is gonna find their own entry point and find their own things that make Star Wars special. So just because it's not special the same way it was special for you or for me or for whoever, I think that because it's a story that resonates so deeply and so broadly that I don't think that other generations are going to lose out because they don't have the exact same experience that we did.
Great points. And I think you're hitting on something there. And one of the things that was said during the finale of Rebels screening is there's a family that's gone around since Rebels began, and they literally dress up as the Ghost Crew. And it's been fun to kind of watch them grow, like the kids getting older and over the last 4 or 5 years. And it's interesting that one of the kids said, this was my entry into Star Wars, seeing it, 4.5, 5 years ago. And I forget how old he was at the time, but growing up with that was the entry point. And I think you're right, Amy, that there are other avenues into Star Wars. And I think sometimes, especially those of us that have been there since the beginning, can sometimes think, oh, that's the only way. And the only way to be a real fan is if you've been there since the beginning. And that's just not right. So I think you said it succinctly and perfectly. On that note, let's talk about our third news story this week. And that is, I hate to even call them rumors. Speculation would probably be more appropriate. But speculation that the one and only Ms. Meryl Streep may be cast as Leia in Episode 9. We know that J.J. Abrams had at least a first draft complete for Episode 9. John Boyega is on the record for saying that there will be a lot of warring going on in Star Wars Episode 9 and that Rey and Finn will be back together again, which is all great. Carl, let me come to you. When it comes to, I guess, one, someone taking the place of Leia, two, it being Meryl Streep, what are your immediate thoughts on that?
Immediate thought is it would be very difficult for anybody to replace Carrie Fisher as Leia. But if anybody could do it, I think it'd be Meryl Streep. I mean, we don't have like Dame Judi Dench like they do over in the UK. So she's the closest thing we have to having a dame as far as the person that is one of our best actresses in America. So she could do it. She, as the articles that we kind of went over talked about, she even played Carrie Fisher's character in Postcards from the Edge, so there's that connection too. That it's kind of that, and she's just so well respected. I think so many people, just respect how good she is at her job, that it would be acceptable, and I think they could if it was needed for the story. All right, Amy, your thoughts.
There's no good answer for this because the answer that everyone wants is for Carrie Fisher to play Leia. Sure. I think I had read in the Vanity Fair articles that came out before The Last Jedi that Kathleen Kennedy had said that 9 was supposed to be Carrie's movie. It was supposed to be Leia's movie. Right. And so to me, the best way to honor Leia is to continue the story as it was originally supposed to be. And Meryl Streep would actually be my preference, like my choice, because of like what Carl said. She played her in Postcards from the Edge. She is the preeminent actress of her generation, of our time. And so I feel like it would show a lot of respect to Carrie that way. And she wouldn't try to be Carrie. She would, I think she would do the role well. But the fact that I would like that to happen means pretty much guarantees that it wouldn't. So I know there's like no good answers, and I know there's different ways that people feel about it. But for me, I would really love to see the story that Leia was supposed to have in 9, very, very much. And so if that means that we have someone else play Leia, then that's what I think they should do.
All right. Well, hold on to that because we're certainly going to come back to that in our closer look. Eve, Meryl Streep, General Leia, your thoughts?
I'm very well aware of how very well respected she is, and she is certainly someone that I have enjoyed time and time again in movies. It makes me uncomfortable. The question makes me uncomfortable. I actually do not know why. I don't know if it's because I just can't imagine seeing someone else as Leia, or if it makes Carrie's death kind of come rushing back every time I think about it, or if it's Meryl Streep. I cannot put my finger, and I've been trying all day to figure out why, but I have not come to a solid conclusion. And I don't know. I feel like I would think of all of Meryl Streep's roles and not General Leia if she was in the movie.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So she's almost typecast herself because she's so big.
Yeah, a little bit. But then I don't know who else I would pick to be a replacement or recast.
Okay.
Because there is no one else.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what. I want to come back to that as well in our closer look segment. But right now, if you hear that in the background, getting louder. Here, what?
I hope I can elaborate.
Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million. One in a million.
I got a bad feeling about this.
All right, it is once again time for the game that's sweeping the galaxy. Great shot or bad feeling. And this is the Meryl Streep edition, folks. Our panelists tonight do not have any idea what I've got on my show notes here.
None.
And I'm going to give them 6 different scenarios. And I want them to respond with either great shot because they like it, they agree with it, it's a great idea, or bad feeling, no, take a pass, it's not going to work. So tonight's great shot or bad feeling Meryl Streep edition, gang. I'm going to give you prospective episode 9 titles that are reworkings of previous Meryl Streep films. Episode 9 titles that are reworkings of previous Meryl Streep films. All right, here we go. Eve, I'm going to begin with you on this. The first one is, in place of course, the Deer Hunter, we're going to go with the Sith Hunter. The Sith Hunter, great shot, bad feeling.
Great shot.
Oh, Amy.
Great shot.
Said with passion and conviction. Carl.
Clean sweep. That's a great shot.
Wow. All right. Moving along. Number 2, Amy, we'll give with you this time. It's no longer Sophie's choice. It's Leia's choice.
Oh, great shot.
Oh, Carl.
Oh, bad feeling because she might pick her brother.
Oh. Oh, wow. Those that have not seen Sophie's Choice have no idea what you're talking about. Go watch the movie. Eve.
Great job.
Oh, all right. All right, Carl, I'm coming to you this time.
Okay.
Here it is. No longer is it the Devil Wears Prada, but it is the General Wears Gungan.
Oh, bad feeling.
Oh, goodness. Eve.
Bad feeling.
Oh, Amy.
I'm going to say great shot.
All right. Yeah, the General Wears Gungan. I mean, that brings all kind of mental images to my mind. All right, looking at next, let's go with this one. And Eve, will begin with you. No longer out of Africa, but it is out of Alderaan.
Great shot.
All right, Amy.
Great shot.
Carl.
Yeah, great shot.
Okay, good. Amy, coming your way again. Of course, we're going to go back to the mid-1990s. No longer the bridges of Madison County, but it is the bridges of Mos Eisley.
Well, that book takes place in my home state, not that far from where I live.
Oh.
So of course, I have to say great shot.
All right. Carl.
Bad feeling. C, elaboration I had on Sophie's Choice.
All right. Fair enough. Eve?
A great shot.
All right, good. Cruising along. Our last one, and Carl, begin with you. No longer postcards from the edge, but postcards from the edge of the Edu system.
Oh, great shot.
All right, Eve.
Great shot.
Amy.
Great shot.
There it is. All right, we are in agreement. We've got some working titles for episode 9 with the very fabulous Meryl Streep. Hang around, my little tauntauns. We'll be back with a closer look right after this.
I'm going in closer to one of the big ones.
Closer? Come closer, I have good news.
A certain point of view.
Same thing I always do, talk my way out of it.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
I never asked that question until after I've done it.
You're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
All right, welcome back to our Closer Look segment. And tonight we're taking a closer look at how should Lucasfilm and Disney handle the Leia situation. Let me, as we dive into this, let me give you a preview of some films that you are probably at some level or another familiar with, where either CGI or different actors were used to portray the same character. And there's a number of them out there, but here are a few of them. Gladiator, Doctor Who, of course, we've got all kinds of different doctors. James Bond, same thing. Harry Potter, Dumbledore, is that it?
Dumbledore.
Yeah,
Dumbledore, Walmart, Kmart. All right, moving on. Batman, of course. And then, drum roll, but the original Star Wars had it with Wedge Antilles. So, dun. So, with that in mind, Amy, let me begin with you. What are your general thoughts on having another actress come in and portray General Leia?
I think that that's the best available option out of a list of bad options.
Okay.
So obviously the ideal would be to have Carrie there to do the role. But since that's not possible, I feel like having someone else to finish her story shows respect for Leia, respect for what Carrie brought to Leia and her desire to she understood what Leia meant to fans. That's very clear if you look at some of like the features from The Last Jedi behind the scenes, which of course you can't do because you didn't buy it.
No.
Ouch.
Tomorrow, look at it tomorrow night.
For those of us that did, we can see kind of the pains that she took in her awareness of that. And so to me, like that would be the best situation out of a bad choice, you know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's no good answer to this because it does bring up a lot of pain and questions just as far as like the ethical side of things too, which we saw a little bit with Rogue One and Tarkin and even Leia there, although that obviously had Carrie Fisher's full permission and participation in that. Amy, let me ask you, is it fair to say based on your answer that you are about honoring the character more so than honoring the actor?
Yes.
Okay. I that's great. I align myself with that as well. In fact, let me kind of read some of the options out so those of you who are listening can kind of get a broader idea of what may or may not be some of the options that Lucasfilm and Disney have had to dialogue and work through. So here are some of the options. The character Leia is written out before 9 even arrives. That could be in novel form. It could be in comic form. There's a number of ways that they could do that. Another option would be Leia's death or a mission that she goes on is mentioned in the opening crawl of episode 9. Another option would be we use B-roll of Carrie Fisher. We're taking things that she's previously shot for perhaps Force Awakens, for perhaps The Last Jedi, and we're recutting it to actually fit the need. So it may be a diminished role, but we're actually using footage of Carrie Fisher that's already been filmed. Another option out there is to actually have Leia more or less far away from the camera, which would use a body double of sorts, almost like the scene that we see in episode 4 when she's feeding the Death Star plans to R2 before she pulls back the hood and reveals herself. Another option would be, as we started with Meryl Streep, recasting the character altogether. And then there may be some other ones that we haven't yet thought up of that may come out of this conversation. So with that in mind, let's continue on. Eve, your thoughts on this? When you hear these options, when you see these options in the show notes, do any of them ring true to you, or that would say, oh, okay, I guess we could go with that and I'd feel okay about it as a fan?
I think out of all of them, I'm most aligned with what Amy said in that out of all of the options, the best one would be the Leia recast because it would honor the character and respect all that has happened over the last 40 plus years and that we have been told about her and have a complete beginning, middle, and end, which is something that Mark Hamill always talks about. So that would definitely be, I think, the best way to go. But again, my personal affections towards Carrie Fisher kind of snapped that rein a little bit for me because I've seen interviews with her talking about how interchangeable her and Leia was. So she herself said, I am Leia and Leia is me. So when I think of quotes like that and you know, even having watched her documentary on HBO, it worries me as a fan going into the film how I would accept any story or conclusion to her character knowing how Carrie felt about her.
Let me ask you this. I want to add this onto it. I don't disagree with what you've said. Let's pretend that the issue isn't necessarily around Carrie Fisher's death, but it's around, let's say, something as benign as contract negotiations. Okay? If the situation were different, if Carrie Fisher were still alive, but it was hung up over contract negotiations or whatever else it was, would you feel the same, do you think? Would you still want that character to go on, or would you have a different attitude or tone about it? It's like, Carrie Fisher's alive, she doesn't want to do the part, or she's not getting paid what she wants or feels she deserves. Well, forget that, we're going forward anyway.
I would not feel the same.
So how do you think you would feel?
If she turned around and said, I don't want to be a part of the film anymore, I'm done playing Leia, then all of the comments that I just mentioned would be rendered moot, in which case I would be like, okay, I'm all for recasting, because she doesn't want to be a part of it, so why should I care?
Right. Okay.
So here, I have a question.
Yeah.
What if, like, God forbid, something would happen to John Boyega or Daisy Ridley or Adam Driver between 8 and 9? Would you want them to recast?
Are you asking me?
Are you asking me?
Just in general. What do you think then? Does that make it different?
I don't know, Amy. You're throwing me a curveball. That's tough. I don't know that I would want those characters recast. And granted, I have more affinity for how Daisy Ridley portrays Rey, and I don't know that other actresses, just as Carrie Fisher and her portrayal of Leia would be very different than anybody else. I don't know if anybody else could portray Rey as well as Daisy Ridley. So I don't know. That's especially tough, knowing, or at least speculating, where the saga is going to end up with a focus on that character and Finn as well. What do you think, Amy?
Well, that's where I feel like we're not, like, as a large fandom, particularly consistent about it.
Sure.
So I think some of it makes a difference with, like, you know, legacy characters versus newer characters and age and things like that. But I guess ultimately my allegiance is ultimately to the story. And so, you know, as much as I love Adam Driver, if he couldn't be Kylo Ren, I would want them to get someone else to be Kylo Ren.
Wow.
You know? So that story is more important to me than devotion to the person that plays it.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this. Since you threw me a curveball, Amy, I'm going to throw one back at you. If you had your choice between someone else playing Kylo Ren or Adam Driver playing Kylo Ren, but episode 9 meant that he had his head shaved, which would you want?
Oh, you're just pulling that choice Baldo business. I would pick Baldo Ren.
Oh,
because his hair is one of his better features. It's not his only good feature, and I feel like he's probably the best actor that Star Wars has had in any of the movies. Wow. And I think that his performance in The Last Jedi is arguably the best performance in any Star Wars movie ever.
Wow.
So he brings a lot to the table.
He and his hair certainly do.
Yeah. So I would choose Baldo, but that really is a terrible choice that is punishing me a lot.
Yeah. Sorry, not sorry. Carl, jump in here. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, this discussion kind of came up when we had talked about, or the article had come out about just Alden Ehrenreich, and the author of that article didn't want even somebody else playing Han Solo. And if we can't have somebody, of the legacy characters, if we can't recast Han Solo, and I wrote an article about it called Han Solo or Solo is the I can't even say it. Solo is the celluloid you're looking for. So check it out at mistakenlystarwars.com. It looks great now because Eve did a great job of redoing the website. I don't know if you may notice. And Amy's got a lot of great articles there too. So while you're there, check those out. But anyway, if we can't replace Han Solo with Harrison Ford and how he was kind of really indifferent to the fans for a long time, it would be, almost impossible to replace Carrie Fisher in the role at the same time. We want to do it because that character of Princess Leia is too important. And, so you could say, well, maybe we could do it in a different time period and we go back to a younger actress. Doing it now at the same time, I agree with everything Amy said. I think Amy said it perfectly. I agree exactly with her. I just think if the reaction to Alden Ehrenreich was what it was, what will it be if anybody is recast as Leia? So I think it'll be difficult. I think, but I agree that's the best option is recasting her probably with Meryl Streep, as we talked about. I would say probably just to kind of change it around a little bit, I think the worst option would be to have it done in a different venue such as books or comics or something like that, because we talk about how is it fair for the people who are watching the movies and movies is their only thing, that they're missing something important if they don't read a book or something. And I think most of the time people seem to say, it's nice to have things from books in there, but we don't want it to be necessary. And as important and vital as Princess Leia is to the series, it would be a disservice to a lot of people for them to never even see how it happened. So I think that's probably the worst choice.
Well, I think that brings up some more really valuable questions. And before I get into that, though, I will also say, we've already had recasting for a couple of other Star Wars, and I guess borderline, right? We can call them legacy characters, but certainly Genevieve O'Reilly came in as Mon Mothma for Rogue One and did a fantastic job. And look, I guess this is worthy, not worthy, but of course, Peter Mayhew is no longer playing Chewbacca. And I guess maybe that's because he's in full costume and we would never know the difference because you hear one Wookiee roar, they all sound alike. But so we're not beyond that in the Star Wars galaxy as far as casting goes. I want to know this, though. And Carl, let me stick with you and then we'll come back around. If it were to happen, whether it's in a book or in a crawl, we're not going to recast. We're going to have to rethink how we're going to do episode 9 and how this saga is going to find its finale. Is it taking the easy way out? Is it cheating fandom by writing her out in a crawl or in a novel?
I mean, there is no easy way out, as Amy and everybody else said. There are no good choices, but I guess it takes the least amount of effort. So I guess as far as the ease of that way of it, it's just, well, we're just going to put it in a crawl and it's on the screen for 10 seconds and then we move on. I don't think that's doing the character justice.
I'm with you. Let me ask this as a follow-up. If they choose to go that route, whether it's book, whether it's crawl, however it's done off screen, what type of Leia no longer being part of the story as far as an actress on screen, what would be a justifiable way to write that character out? How would you want that character to not be part of the visual aesthetic of a film?
She's going to have to do what Luke and Han did. She's going to have to sacrifice herself for others in some way.
Okay. Yeah. Eve, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if anything but what Carl mentioned. I don't know if anything but a sacrifice would do justice enough by her character. I think if it was something like she had taken ill, that would be horrible and completely unbelievable.
Home, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Completely unbelievable, and I think a lot of people would be angry. I know I personally would, but at the same time, I don't know, if with a sacrifice like that, I feel like even if we were pleased that was ultimately her end, people would still be kind of like, well, we wish we would have seen it in some capacity. So I don't know if there's any other option that will please everybody across the board.
And to clarify, and Carl, you can weigh in on this as well, but to clarify, Eve, when you talk about sacrifice, are we talking about like Admiral Holdo, Admiral Raddus? Are we talking about Han Solo? Like, what type of sacrifice would be, I guess, grandiose enough for you to feel as you walked away going, okay, that character got the ending that she ultimately deserved?
A part of me thinks that it should be on a Holdo level, but my gut screams it would have absolutely something to do with Kylo.
Mm-hmm.
Either saving his life to prove that there's still a life worth saving, or just ultimately that kind of the antithesis of what happened with Han. Not that Kylo would kill her, but that she would sacrifice herself to save him.
Would that drive people's hate toward Kylo Ren as a villain, not as a hair model, to greater heights? Would that be good for the story, actually, if we see that Kylo Ren has not only killed his father, but in some way caused the death of his mother?
I think the same with any choices a Star Wars movie makes. People are going to be pissed off and people are going to love it. I think for me personally, it would be... I think it would help bring him into that redemption territory for me. Whereas right now, I can't see it happening.
Yeah.
But if something like that happened and then he would turn his back against that, then yes, I absolutely would hate him. But I don't think he would.
Okay. Amy, jump in here. Your thoughts if the character meets her demise off screen, in a crawl, in a comic, in a novel. What is an appropriate way for that character to be written out, quote unquote?
I feel like, kind of like what everyone else said, like it would just be really disrespectful to have it be off screen, just to the movie going audience as a whole and a Leia. I mean, if you look at like the previous trilogies, the third installment of the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy are not kind or well serving to female characters.
Yeah.
Think of Padme,
right,
in Revenge of the Sith. Think of Leia in Return of the Jedi. And so it would just kind of be to have Leia go out in that way. That being said, I don't like it when any characters die ever, and I know that that's not realistic or sophisticated, and I don't care. And so I don't want Leia. Like I don't want Leia to die, and I don't want to have to see Leia die with my own two eyes. Like I had to watch Luke Skywalker die with my own two eyes. So I kind of resonate with what Eve says. I can't help but think that originally the original plan was for Leia to play a prominent role in redeeming Ben Solo and bringing her son back. And as somebody that is 112% pro redemption, then that's, I would love to see that happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know what they're going to do. Yeah. And, the sad thing is we've got J.J. Abrams that's going to be writing this. So who knows what we're going to have happen. And, I honestly don't know. I don't envy him at all. I remember one of the first things I thought when I left The Last Jedi was like, oh, I'm so glad that I don't have to think of what to do. What the heck are you going to do now, JJ? Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. Because it's going to be really hard to wrap it up in a satisfying way.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think whomever has the task, in this particular case, it's J.J. Abrams, he's got his work cut out for him. There's no doubt about that. Let me ask this, though, Amy. When it comes to your thoughts and feelings toward that, do you think that, speaking of J.J. Abrams and what he's noted for is his mystery box, right? Whatever it is, he wants to keep things under wrap, whereas Rian Johnson was much more free-flowing during the process and especially after the process of what was going on in the creative works and minds of everyone to bring us The Last Jedi. When it comes to J.J. Abrams, do you think that Episode 9, the mystery box thing that is going to be the equivalent of Rey's parentage and Snoke's backstory, do you think it's going to be what's going to happen with Leia?
Oh God, I don't know. God, I hope not. Especially because I don't want to go back to all that, okay, the mystery box, and if I have to hear more about that and the stupid practical effects, I might I get a gray hair every time. So, God, I hope not. I hope he's learned a little bit and is going to be more open about things, and that's just my preference. Like, I like spoilers. I like knowing what's going on. I really respect the way Rian Johnson has engaged with fans, even fans that have been very unkind to him and very rude online. He's been really open about things. And I just have a lot of respect for that. And I know not everyone can do that or be that way, but like when you just look at like the approach, even if I just look at like how Leia was handled, just look at how she was dressed in The Force Awakens versus The Last Jedi. In The Force Awakens, she looked like, she said herself, a classy gas station attendant, and her baboon ass hairdo. And then she looked like royalty in The Last Jedi. She looked amazing. She looked regal. And so I just feel like she was treated differently, and the character of Leia was just respected more in The Last Jedi. So I really don't like the idea of like JJ being the one that's in charge of deciding that, and then having it be in his precious little mystery box. Like, it just, gag.
So how do you really feel, though? I mean, when it comes down...
I love practical effects in mystery boxes. That's how I feel.
Nice. That's what your ringtone's going to say. Carl, what are your thoughts on this when it comes to the mystery box, or at least maybe we'll phrase it a little bit differently so Amy doesn't have an aneurysm on air, but when it comes to fan speculation and like the hot take topic that everybody's talking about, do you think that how Leia is going to factor into this is going to be the equivalent of the Rey's parentage, Snoke's background that we had for episode 8?
I don't think so. I mean, it's just got to be, we're talking about just treating her with respect to both the character and Carrie Fisher. Yeah. And so I think that to use it as a gimmick would really turn fans off even more than a lot of stuff. So, and I think if JJ's not intelligent enough to know that, somebody who like Kathleen Kennedy would tell him that too. So I think really you just kind of, whatever you're going to do with it, you got to kind of get it out of the way early, kind of address it tastefully, respectfully, and then move on. I don't think you can kind of dangle it out there just to I don't know, just to have a Sixth Sense kind of moment, later in the movie. So,
from your point of view, Carl, what would be an unacceptable way to write that character off?
I agree with Amy. I don't want it if the character is going to die also. I don't want it something to be as mundane. There's always I was a big fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I love that show. And spoiler alert for anybody who hadn't watched that show from 15 years ago. About the fourth season or third or fourth season, Buffy's mother dies, and it's an aneurysm, and she just comes home, finds her dead on the couch. And that was interesting in that point because that whole show was about dealing with supernatural monsters and things that are trying to get you. But then sometimes it's just the regular part of life, that something can just come out of nowhere. It was interesting there. I just don't think it would have the same effect in a Star Wars movie. So there's reasons to do it. I just don't think of a good reason why you could do it in Star Wars. So it would just having it to sort of like be an illness. And like you said, it's kind of too close to home. It's a little too soon for that. That would be a bad way for that to happen.
Well, Eve, let me bring it to you, and let me change it just a little bit. And, Rian Johnson had an opportunity to actually put this to rest doing post-production for The Last Jedi. There was the moment where Leia gets blown out into outer space, right? And before she has her Mary Poppins moment, he could have easily just had her perish right there, had the character gone right there. And in fact, he talks about, so I hear, since I don't actually have the Blu-ray and digital version yet, but he talks about how he considered that as an opportunity and even spoke to Kathleen Kennedy and the story group about it at some level, and ultimately decided for a variety of reasons that wasn't the right answer. Looking back now, though, do you think that actually maybe made more sense?
No.
Okay. That was a strong answer. So say why then.
Yeah. I distinctly remember gasping when I saw that scene. And my first thought was, did he really choose to end this character's journey 25 minutes into this film? And that particular way by her son, just like he had killed his father. And it was,
but it wasn't her son. He wasn't the one that fired. He didn't fire on her.
I know he didn't.
Okay. Bring that up. It's important.
He also didn't tell anybody not to fire either. So
He was having a moment. They were having a forced communication moment.
Anyways.
So it was almost a cringeworthy moment for me.
Okay.
And then as soon as she started Mary Poppins in through this space, I could breathe again.
Okay.
And then I thought, well, he's not going to kill her twice in the same movie. So she's guaranteed to make it. But what does that mean for episode 9? That was in a span of 15, 20 seconds, that's every thought that went through my brain. So no, I'm absolutely very happy he didn't go that route. That would have not only upset me as a fan and for her journey, but pissed me off as from a filmmaker point of view.
I think I had similar thoughts to you when I first saw that, because I was expecting there's talking right now, even though that The Last Jedi was in theaters, there was already talk about episode 9 and how Carrie Fisher may fit into that. And it was supposed to be her big movie and all that stuff. But at the same time, I had that moment of clinching fear of going, oh my gosh, is this actually it? Is this how we're seeing the death of Leia right now? And I was relieved that it wasn't like that. And I would just echo that I'm glad that it didn't end on that note. And I'm glad I'm not part of the story group that has to figure out their way out of this thing. No doubt about it. Listen, any other parting shots as we wrap up this Closer Look segment? Amy, any other thoughts as we get ready to land the shuttle?
I'm just glad, like what Eve said, because if she had died at that moment, we would have missed such an amazing performance from her for the rest of the movie. Like, it just would have been awful. And so I'm so glad that they left it in, and like her last line in the movie to Rey really does hold true. Like, we have everything we need and they will figure something out and we will deal with it because it's fake and it's in space and it'll be okay.
Wait, what?
Fake?
Carl, parting thoughts.
Just as far as, her going out in 8, if it, only thing that it could have done would have been the holdover maneuver, but we would have missed her and Luke reunion.
Right.
So that would have been unsatisfactory too. So, I guess they did the right thing, and how they get out of it, we'll find out.
Yes. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Hey, speaking of stay tuned, stick around, Tauntauns. We'll be back to wrap things up right after this.
We're not done yet.
Wrap it up.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up for tonight. Eve, what do you got for us on the calendar and announcement-wise?
Well, with the exception of tonight, you can find us live on the Twitter, typically every Monday at 7 p.m. Sorry.
So, as we wrap, let's take that again.
Wrap it up.
Actually, I have a question. Are we going to be live on YouTube or live on Twitter? That's what threw my brain off.
Yeah. Let's just say streaming live on the Twitter.
Okay.
Because ultimately we'll publish it on the Twitter.
Sounds
All right,
good.
so let me throw it to you again. 3, 2. All right, Eve, what have you got for us this week?
Well, typically every Monday night starting at 7:15 Pacific time or 10:15 Eastern, you can catch the podcast live streaming on the Twitter.
Yes.
And if you ever miss an episode, you can find it on our YouTube channel at Unmistakably Star Wars. Just pop that in the search bar, or it will be up on the website at unmistakably-starwars.com a few days after the fact.
Yeah, and I just want to say, sorry to cut you off. I just have to say, here's why we didn't broadcast live this episode, because I'm the only one in the studio, and that's just kind of weird. But I digress. Eve, what else have you got for us?
So, April showers bring listener powers. All right. Last week I mentioned that there is a giveaway, and today would be the sharing of the details, and here they are. So, here's how this works. You, the listeners, the awesome people that love Unmistakably Star Wars, please help us spread the word about this amazing podcast and all the great things that we are trying to do and give to you. What the plan is, try again. What we would like you to do is head over to iTunes and give us a review. And that automatically enters you for a chance to win your choice of a Forces of Destiny doll. Really, that's it. You post a review, take a screenshot, and email us at unmistakably@gmail.com. Then sit back, relax, knowing you did a wonderful thing for us on the show, and wait for the listener to be announced on April 30th.
So that's all you have to do. You just have to go give us a 7-star review on iTunes, and then
7.
You're automatically entered for a chance to win.
Yes, but you have to take a picture and prove it, though.
Okay, so you've got to send the screenshot to unmistakably@gmail.com. And then what are the choices? If I can ask, if I start my fake iTunes account to give a review.
You will not.
What are the choices for FOD dolls?
So we have a Rey.
Oh.
We have Leia with R2.
Oh.
And a Jyn Erso.
Nice.
But we're also looking at adding Sabine and a whole other bunch of people. So look out for pictures on the website in the coming days.
All right. That's exciting. Anything else?
Lastly, engage with us, people. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts about tonight's topics on oversaturation, replacing Carrie Fisher with recasting or Meryl Streep in general, or anything else that we have touched on in this episode? You can call us and leave a really hilarious voicemail for Devin, because he's the only one that can hear this. So at the USW hotline, which is 831-531-7009, or on the Twitter at unmistakably_SW. Reach out. Chat with us. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely. Engage. And yes, I'm the only one that gets the voicemail, but we'll play it on the air because we're that crazy. We won't care what you say. Just give us something. You can even disguise your voice like somebody who's on tonight's panel trying to do a long time ago and get away with something. But I won't mention Carl's name. But anyway, hey, we do want to thank you for hanging out with us each and every week. We know that you have a tight schedule, and there are plenty of things that you could do to choose to do with your time, and we thank you for choosing to stick with USW as part of your weekly rhythm. We also, of course, want to give a shout out to our patrons: Brandon Boylan, Jen Capron, Dave Ackerson, Michelle Grundine, Neil Lowry, William Pollock, Regina Sanders, Connie Shee, Aaron Sinner, Krista Smolinski, Franklin Taylor, Brad Tracy, Michael Ward, Amy Wishman, who did a fantastic job tonight, and of course, our mystery donor. Amy, you're probably glad you're on this episode for this, because you get a live recording of this. And
I do admit it's a very special moment for me.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I love C-3PO. There it is. I love
True love.
that protocol droid. In fact, there might be room in my heart for a C-3PO standalone. No, that's too far. I take it back.
Oh.
But nonetheless, thank you, patrons. You help to make this train go. Your financial investment not only encourages us, but it also allows us to reach out with quality programming. And we know it's a sacrifice. So thank you for your absolute generosity. We know that you could certainly choose to spend your dollars on crappy gas station coffee, but we are so thankful that you choose to spend it with us. As Eve said, please don't forget to engage. Let us know what you think. Should we recast? Here I go again. Should Lucasfilm recast the role of Princess Leia? General Leia? Should... Good Lord, just read what's there. By all means, as Eve said, please engage with us. Let us know either via email or voicemail. Should Lucasfilm recast the role of General Leia? Is it oversaturation? Are we headed down that path too quickly? And who knows? The next generation of kids, is our future doomed? Despite what Whitney Houston said, that believing that the children are our future and we should treat them well and let them lead the way, will they be able to lead the way if they don't have Toys R Us? That's my question for you people. Let us know. Engage with us. That is all for this week, my little tauntauns. The circle is now complete. We'll see you next time in the Digital Docking Bay, and until then, may the Force be with you.
Unmistakably Star Wars is a member of the Star Wars Escape Pods Network. Explore more great content and get to know our sister shows at weareescapepods.com and on Twitter at weareescapepods. The Star Wars Escape Pods Network, promoting positivity in fandom.
Wait for it. There she is.
This party's over.
Move along. Move along.
They smell bad on the outside.
And we are clear. Very nice. Good night, YouTube. I'll be right back.